Everyone, welcome to another episode of our Google Ads talk show. In studio with me, I have Josh, our head of Google Ads. How's it, Josh?
How's it? Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here. In this episode, we want to talk about the ideal campaign structure or ideal, I'd say, strategy, Google Ads strategy if you're an e-commerce business, what you can consider in order to squeeze out more results and squeeze out more revenue back on your ads, aka ROAS. So with that said, if you have an e-commerce business, then it's a good time to get a pen and paper handy. Josh, I'm excited to dive into this because this is something we're quite passionate about, and a large portion of all the clients we have are e-commerce businesses. I know we do both e-com and local business, and
Correct,
we do
yeah.
a bunch of other stuff too. But e-com is something we're quite passionate about, and we've had some really good success with. So with that said, where do we start in explaining a really good strategy, an ideal campaign structure for someone on the other side who is an e-commerce business owner?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, like as we've discussed, every business is unique, and we don't necessarily have a one-size-fits-all approach. But if I can speak from a top-level view, the sort of general structure that I would focus on is mainly shopping. That is the bread and butter of e-commerce. It's the most competitive as well. If you were to dive into the auction insights in your account, you'll notice the amount of websites that you are competing against in terms of search is usually a third or a quarter of that compared to shopping.
Sure.
And why is that? Because shopping is what brings in the sales.
Okay.
And the reason for that, I believe, is because of the fact that the product image is shown, the price is shown, and the title. So users are very easily able to compare pricing if they are looking at it from that point of view.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that's what I would focus on, is shopping.
So you're basically saying like shopping is one of the most important things for e-commerce businesses.
Correct.
And it also have been shown to have the biggest success.
Yes.
In terms of what though? Like in terms of revenue back, ROAS, conversion rates, or all factors?
So majority of sales volume does come from shopping.
Okay.
And generally speaking, there are some anomalies, but it does usually also produce the best return on your ad spend, for sure.
So Google Shopping is something you desperately need if you're going to run e-commerce ads.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, where does search come into play, YouTube ads, anything like that? Like, I mean, there might be people sitting there going, well, I've got a Google Shopping campaign, but for some reason I'm not getting the results I want. Is there additional campaign someone can launch alongside that to make it more worthwhile, or should they be optimizing? I mean, I don't even know how to go about optimizing Google Shopping ads.
Yes.
That's more your expertise than mine. But where would you, if someone was sitting on the other side watching, listening, saying, oh, I'm running Google Shopping campaigns, but I'm not seeing a success, how would you go about dissecting where the problem lies, and what advice can you give to anybody on the other side who want to improve those campaigns for themselves?
Yes, well, I mean, I can tell you now, you are probably running one shopping campaign that has all your products in that feed, which is not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not the best way to go about it. Ideally, you do want to segment your products into multiple campaigns. And again, that's if you've got the budget to do so. If you don't have a reasonable amount of ad spend, like we discussed in a previous video, then your budget is going to be spread too thin. So it's important to also then know what are my products that have the best margins, and then have those either in their own campaigns or collectively in one, and then have a catch-all, say, campaign that's got all your products excluding, let's say, your top performers or your products that do have your best margins. So that's how I would go about it. You always want to segment, because if you're an e-commerce business that has 1,000 products, again, coming back to your budget being spread too thin, within that one campaign that you've got, you are likely spending a bit of budget on all of those products, where you might have, it's usually in every case, if an e-commerce store has got 1,000 products, it's likely 10 to 20 of those products that are bringing in the most amount of sales value at the best return on ad spend. Not to say that, not all advertising your products that don't necessarily sell as often is not, worth doing so. You still want to have a separate campaign doing that, but then at least you can allocate, from the campaign's perspective as to how much budget you want to allocate, to your top performers and lower performers.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is you've got a bit more control over the amount of money that you're going to make back from Google.
Yeah.
because from just listening to what you're saying is that you can have the catch-all campaign if you're on a limited budget and you might get some money back. But if you really want to scale and ensure that you consistently bring more money back into the business in terms of profit, you might need a bit more clarity on what's actually selling and what's not. And you want to adjust your campaign structures and budgets accordingly, because you don't want to force product down people's throats that they don't want to buy. And we've seen this in retail. We've both worked in retail for quite some time. Number one, so we know each other before this journey even. And we've seen that most retail businesses, whether it's online or not, 20% of your products equal 80% of your revenue. So you want to focus your efforts on pushing the product that people want. But at the same time, there are people sitting there going, well, I've got all the stock on this range, or I've got all this product sitting here that I need to get rid of. How do I get rid of it? Because I need to do something. So that's when they start spending money on marketing. But often you don't get the result or the revenue and the profit back that you want, because there's a reason they're slow sellers. And what you're saying is you can better control that if you have more than one campaign, essentially.
Correct, yes.
Beautiful.
But in order to have multiple campaigns, you need enough budget.
Exactly.
So
if you have a catch-all campaign, the final conclusion there is that there might be products in that campaign that's actually sucking your profit out.
Exactly. Essentially cannibalizing your budget.
Makes sense.
So, and that's why it's important to have someone that is looking at that on a day-to-day basis that can, catch that. Or identify as to which products are cannibalizing and then make adjustments.
So in terms of e-com strategies, Google Shopping should be a part of it. If you have the budget, ideally you want more than one campaign around Google Shopping, focusing on different categories, different, I would say products in terms of popularity and so forth. What else is there that people can walk away with?
Most people are going to be running a Performance Max campaign in their e-commerce account.
Is that just because it's very easy to set up, or
it's very easy to? Well, I would say that it's easier than the other campaigns to set up. It's not, again, easy to set up the correct way.
Sure. Different story.
Yes, but and also because that Google often pushes you to create a Performance Max campaign. Even in platform, if you go about creating a shopping campaign, they actually say, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to create shopping? Don't you want to create Performance Max?"
Oh, really?
So just be careful, because
sometimes you need to be sure.
Yes.
Yes, I really want to. Thank you.
Yes, and there's a reason as to why Google wants you to create a Performance Max campaign. Not to say that it's wrong. We make use of it in many accounts, but the problem with Performance Max is that you can't necessarily control as to where it's spending the budget, because what is Performance Max at the end of the day? Yes, the name of the campaign sounds great, but it comprises of shopping, search, display, YouTube, discovery. So it's many campaign types all in one, essentially. That's why it's so attractive. But with that being said, you can't actually control from a budget perspective where it's going. There are ways that you can find out where it's going. We have some ways that we can see that, and we can identify and be like, okay, well, the 20% of your daily budget is going into display. When we kind of wanted to go more into shopping, we do have a way that we can actually push Performance Max to do more shopping. But other than that, it is also dependent. Performance Max, with it being a campaign that comprises of so many different other campaign types, it does require a substantial daily budget in order to run.
And what is the minimum requirement there, if I may ask? In your opinion? Because it's probably...
Yes.
How long is a piece of string? But in your opinion, what would be the minimum budget daily there?
Yeah, ideally you want to be spending 200, 300 Rand a day, definitely. And also keep in mind, like I've mentioned again, because it comprises of so many campaign types, it does require a longer learning phase as well. So if you're running a search campaign or a shopping campaign, usually it takes about 5 days to learn, sometimes 7.
Sure.
With Performance Max, it won't actually tell you on the front end as to when it's exited that learning phase, but it can take weeks.
Sure. Okay.
So that's also something to keep in mind.
Also makes sense. The way you explain it just makes complete sense. There's so many touch points that you have to combine, that the algorithm has to combine in order to really understand what's going to work for who it's going to work for as well.
Yeah.
So it makes complete sense why it would take longer. And I think not everybody's got that patience, especially if you're spending that kind of money.
No, for sure. That's why when you set it up, if you do it correctly, likely you're not going to waste that money. But if you don't set it up correctly, Google is going to make full use of trying to spend that daily budget. So if you're not spending it through search or shopping, they'll get it through display. Because at the end of the day, Google wants as much money out of you as possible.
Sure. Makes
so
sense.
Performance Max, again, easy to set up, but that's why you do want someone that knows what they're doing to set it up correctly.
Tell me, Google Shopping, there's opportunity for Performance Max if you're an e-commerce business. Where do search ads come in? I think a lot of people would wonder if it's still something that they should be doing for e-commerce businesses. So where do you stand on search campaigns if you're on an online store?
Yes. So, I mean, they definitely have their place. We do have some accounts where we don't actually run any kind of search campaigns just because it hasn't worked, or comparing it to shopping and Performance Max, it just doesn't have the same return on ad spend. But having search, it's important because there are multiple touch points, and we've seen it within platform that the user, they'll click on a shopping ad, they'll click on some other ad, click on a search ad, and then eventually convert. So what if you didn't have that search ad? Would you have still got the sale? We don't know, maybe not. And in another sense, as much as I praise shopping, because of the fact that it shows the image, the product title, as well as the price, with search you can get so much more information across. So you can make use of multiple headlines. In the past, it was expanded text ads where you can run 3 headlines, 30 characters each, 2 descriptions at 90 characters each. Now you've got responsive search where it does interchange between the different headlines and descriptions. You can have up to 15 headlines, up to 4 descriptions within responsive search. So I mean, with that, again, not everything's going to display at once.
Yeah, the algorithm will pick which one to show to whom.
Correct, yes, and how many clicks that specific combination has received. So again, if you do have a product that you're selling or products and you want to get more information across, that is where search comes into play, especially if there's a feature or something technical that the user is looking for, because again, they're on Google, they know they have some sort of intent. If there's something in the headline or description that catches their eye, you're going to get the click compared to your competitors.
I love that. So what you're saying is, if you have a unique selling point that someone else might not have, then Google Shopping alone might not be able to articulate that selling point. So therefore you might want to use search in order to do that, which will then most likely increase your conversion rate because someone clicks through because of the fact that your product is got this additional feature that others don't have. Beautiful.
Spot on.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, Google Shopping, you can look into Performance Max if you've got the budget for it. There is room for search campaigns if you've got additional messaging that you want to get across. And if there's some unique selling points in your products, perhaps. Is there anything else that someone can consider when it comes to online stores? What is the final sign-off on?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at, I would kind of suggest that you do run your display advertising on social media. I think you get better click-through rates there, and we don't particularly do a lot of display advertising for that reason. It does carry very low cost per clicks, but that's not always a good thing.
The quality of the traffic is not that great.
Correct, yes.
I had this conversation with someone this morning, actually. They were running banner ads, and they were like, oh, we're getting so much traffic to the site, it's amazing. Now we just need to fix the site to get the conversions. And when I found out they were running banner ads, I was like, I don't think fixing the site's going to do anything, really, because the odds of you running banner ads to brand new people, you most likely not getting quality traffic. Can we maybe just touch on why that might be the case? And if there is a banner display strategy to be used, when would you consider using it? I've got my own opinion on that, and we can maybe hash out if that makes sense. But I'm quite curious to know, one, why the quality of traffic is not necessarily what you want from a brand new top of funnel kind of like approach, number one. And then number two, where would you use banner ads specifically?
So I would, if I can start with where I would use banner ads within a Google Ads account, it would be purely for remarketing purposes.
That was what I was going to say.
And that is, I mean, we do have cases where we make use of that, but more often than not, again, I think having your remarketing display campaigns on social does work better. But again, with Google, there's the argument that you should run them because you can also get away with a very small amount of ad spend.
Sure.
Again, it carries very low cost per clicks.
You just stay top of mind.
Yes.
At a very low cost.
Yes. So there are various businesses that do that. You'll find yourself going onto the website and they'll follow you everywhere. It can be a bit annoying at times. But yeah, and I think especially with the banners specifically, it's the placements that maybe also brings in the lower quality traffic.
Explain, if you don't mind.
So
if it's possible.
I think it's also just because when you're on Google, it can be seen as also a bit spammy. So I think that's I don't have any data to back up what I'm saying here. This is purely my feeling and opinion. And I think it's also just based on all the years of having run display campaigns in various cases. Again, it's not to say that I'm completely against display campaigns. There are certain industries or situations where a display campaign does come in useful, especially for whatever reason if you're not running any ads on social. But I just more prefer to run a display campaign on Facebook and Instagram. I think that your click-through rates are better, and yes, you'll see on paper that you are getting hundreds and thousands of impressions and a lot of traffic to the site, but I've always been focused more on quality than quantity. So I think if you are paying for a higher cost per click in your search and your shopping, and you're thinking, oh, that's like 10 times more expensive than display, why is it so much cheaper?
Yeah. Because there's so much more people you can serve those ads to,
yes.
I think, in my opinion. If I had to unpack this for myself logically, and again, this is not proven by data, is because some can debate that you're basically running banner ads on social. So why would you get better traffic on social than on the internet itself?
Yes.
But in my opinion, I think on social, you've got all these additional layers that you might not be thinking about on Google. For example, you've got video. Someone can watch that video for 2 or 3 minutes. Sure, you can do it on YouTube, but I'm referring to when someone is right there in their feed, you've grabbed their attention, they can watch a 2 or 3 minute video on how the product's actually used.
Correct.
You can have story ads that, like a reel, for example, explains, you can condense so much value in a very short 30-second, 60-second video, which is very difficult to do when someone is browsing online and they, on a site reading a specific articles for a specific reason.
Yes.
And here's my theory, and the conclusion I'm trying to make is, not only can you articulate more on social in terms of visuals and text and all these other things, so therefore if someone clicks, the intent is a bit higher because they've obviously had all these data points to combine to decide whether it's worth clicking through or not. But also, when someone is online reading a blog article and then seeing an ad, they're not really in the actual frame of mind to be in a very intent-driven decision-making process to click on that banner. It's more like, I'm reading this article, oh, this looks interesting. It's more of an interrupted marketing strategy more than anything else. There's not much intent behind it. Where on social, you can create the intent, and you can do it so well that even though you're interrupting someone in their feed, you need to keep in mind people are scrolling through their feed to pick something to click on. You're not scrolling through an article to find something to click on. You're scrolling through an article with the idea to find value on the other side of that article. So when you do see something that draws your attention, there is almost like not a lot of thought processes that go through to decide if this is something I really want to find out what's on the other side or not. And most of the time it's a clickbait piece of information.
Yeah.
So therefore the type of quality that comes through is not that great. But when you're on Facebook timeline, you are really there to pick something to click on. People go there to find something because that's why you're there. I don't know what to do, so therefore give me something to do. Oh, yes. Here is something to do. I can read this article, or I can click on this product and learn more about it. Where if you're on an article itself and you're seeing a banner ad, then the dynamic is a little bit different, if that makes sense. The customer psychology is a bit different.
Yes, yeah. As you were saying, especially with like search and shopping, there's an intent behind that. Whereas if they are reading an article and there's these little display banners on the sides and the top, it's almost like you're expecting there to be some sort of banners, and then sometimes you don't even look at it, which is why if you are going to make use of display banners, then use it for remarketing, because then at least, they'll maybe out the corner of their eye, they'll see the text or the color, and then they might not click on it. And if they do, at least, they're familiar with who you are.
No, sure.
But that's where you're staying top of mind.
Love it. Cool, man. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. I think that was quite valuable, and there was a lot of information carried over. Thank you for that. For you guys watching, listening, if you've tuned in, I want to thank you for your attention. If there was any value in it, I want to ask you to potentially like and subscribe for more content like this. Josh, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me.
All the best. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers.